Good morning and welcome back to the Closer's Inner Circle podcast with Denise Griffitts and Bengay III. Last week we talked about sales objections, how to hear them, how to answer them, but today we go a step further because sometimes an objection turns into a flat no. And here's the thing, and we talked a bit about it last week. There isn't just one no, there are at least four. One is not now, two is not this version, three is not this price, and final one, the fourth one is not ever, but only one of those is final. So if you mix them up and you'll walk away with from a deal that was never really dead. And before we get into it, here's a quick word about our sponsor today, Bradley Roush. Now, Ben and I spent last week and today's episode on what to do when somebody tells you no in sales. But Bradley works the opposite problem. He says that if you run a coaching or consulting offer doing 6 to 7 figures, you might not have a lead problem. You have a what happens after yes problem. And Bradley helps founder-led programs fix onboarding, renewals, and referrals. He's big on referrals, and he teaches you how to get those easily and simply. So every good client is worth 1.5 to 2 times more without cranking a lot of money into ad spending. So learn more at Bradley Roush, BradleyRausch.com. Now I need to cough on you. So back to our topic, Ben, there are 3 things I want to get to today if we can, and I think you have some questions. But one is a no is information. It's not a verdict. And we talked a bit about that. Beginners hear no and give up, but closers hear no and start listening harder. And somewhere in those answers is the reason and the fix. 2, it's the same as a failed entry. You didn't get in. Happens all the time. That doesn't mean you never will. It means just not this way, not right now. So if you back up and you adjust and you come back, that's sales infiltration. I believe that's page 257 in the closers part 2. Is it 257 or 157, Ben?
257.
Okay. And you've told me several times that that's the most important thing about sales that you have ever written. And that's again in this closers part 2. And 3, a lot of no's don't stay no. I've seen this myself. 6 months go by, a year go by. Honestly, I've had people contact me, 5, 6, 7 years later, so I'm ready now. Really? Okay, let's go. But budgets change, people leave, and the only person there when it flips is the one who stayed in touch the whole time. So connect with people, stay in touch with them. Don't try to sell them all the time, but stay in touch with them. So Ben, did you have any questions from our audience?
Yeah, I had one that came up during the week, and I'll have to admit that I'm not positive who asked me, but it was based on last week's thing, and they said, you don't seem to be able to hear no. And I think
Well,
we'd
yeah,
actually talked about that. Yeah.
we have.
Uh,
I like to
yeah.
say no, I don't want to hear it. That's probably a personality defect.
I'm exactly with you. No is among my favorite words. But I pay no attention to it when it comes from other people. But the point I was making with him was, in some ways, I'm not a good trainer on this subject, and the reason is I can't empathize with it. I don't understand. When I was a young salesman in my case, uh, I had a lot of no's and a lot of objections and walked out of a lot of places scratching my head. Um, I think I told you one time I got caught in a lie and had to sneak out of the building.
Yeah.
Uh, the I said to for newer listeners, I said to a buyer at a big grocery chain that so and so back in Atlanta, he was in North or South Carolina, back in Atlanta at Big Apple, Altman Brothers grocery store chain. And my father was a food broker and called on him all the time. Every night at dinner, if I was at home or visiting after I left home, I would hear about Sybil. Sybil was evil. Sybil had the power to, she couldn't say yes, except for letting you into the buyer's room, but she could say no, and apparently frequently did. I grew up knowing that if I ever met Sybil, my duty would be to kill her. So I said I was selling a special hairspray back when hairspray was sort of unique, and this was unique because it retailed for 88 cents and had a good hold and so on. So I said, he said, how's it going in other stores? And I said, I'd already given him my business card, by the way. And I said, well, Alterman Brothers just bought a carload or something. I threw out some term I heard my father use frequently. I'm not sure I knew what a carload was. And he said, really? How's it going? And I said, well, they're selling fast. So he picks up his phone and says to his receptionist, get Sybil on the phone. And he said, I'll be right back. And he got up and walked out. He had called the dreaded Sybil to find out if we had sold that hairspray to Altman Brothers, Big Apple, which we hadn't. I was lying. And so I'm sitting there. I got an odd name. People remember it, Bengay the Third. Well, my father was Bengay Jr. He was a big deal in the food brokerage business. I figured he wouldn't be too happy if I ruined his reputation. So I reached over, picked up my business card, looked around, make sure there was no other sign of me having ever been there, and went out in the hall and darted down through the reception area, said goodbye to the hostess or receptionist, bolted out the door and took off. So that was the end of my lying or even exaggerating to potential buyers. It really stung and really taught me a lesson. The other
You didn't
than
go out
that,
the window, did you? See,
no, I
this would
would
only
have
be
if there had been one. Yeah,
this
that'd
would
be
only
like
be better if you crawled through a window.
Zig used to tell the story of someone being caught in the closet in a home he wasn't supposed to be in, and the little boy opened the door, saw him in the closet. He says to the little boy, "Where's the back door?" And the little boy says, "We don't have one." He said, "Where would you like one?" So, had there been a window or the opportunity to make a window, I would have gone through it. I never heard anything about it. I suspect the details, minus my business card and so on, were. And my father was rather outspoken. I think if he'd heard about it, I would have heard about it. So I got away with that.
Or he decided to torment you for the
Yeah,
rest of your life.
possible. We had 2 or 3 of those in the air
I know.
over the years. I was told I couldn't buy a car when I was like a senior in high school, but got an opportunity to buy I think it was a 1936 Plymouth 4-door. I saw it moved out to the street because this family where I used to walk past their house had gotten a new something. I remember it was bright yellow, and it was in the garage. So I went and knocked on the door, and I said, "Saw you had a new car here. Is your old one for sale?" And she said, "Well, yeah." I said, "How much?" She said, $50. And I said, "I have to raise the money, but I'll take it." Told her my name and number and so on. Went and raised $50. Parked the car about a block from the family house down a side street, and used it a few times. And then on the second or third day I came back, there was no car, but there was a note nailed or thumbtacked to the telephone pole right where it had been parked. In my father's handwriting, it said, "I said no cars." And I had dinner. I think I was still living. Yeah, I was still living at the house at the time. And so I thought, I'm dreading dinner. Came in, everybody was friendly, everybody was charming, no word of the car. And life went on for another 20 plus years before my father died, and no mention of the car was ever made. And I remember thinking, based on what you just said, I wish you'd bring up the car and get this out of the way,
Exactly. And
instead of waiting for the other shoe.
I suspect that he spoke with Sybil or somebody told him and he just thought, this is too good. I'm going to hang on to this forever and ever. So you'll never know until you meet him up in heaven. Ask him. That's the
Yeah.
first thing you should ask him. Did you know?
I understand
And
you
if
bought
you
a
did,
carload of Ben's hairspray.
you don't love me, do you? You can do some whining, but I'm gonna go with he knew, and he just chose to torment you. That's what
It's
parents do.
possible.
That's our
Well, it
jobs.
worked. It
Yeah,
worked from the day it happened to the day he died. I worried about
yeah.
the automobile and the hairspray.
My
So,
my mother used to say, "That's our job. We have to torment you. That's
it,
our job." And I
yeah,
believed her.
that's one of those things that you have to do to teach, and it's pretty effective. But anyway, what I started to say about the objection thing, uh, with most of my horrible mistakes out of the way, I don't understand. I see things on the internet all the time. What do you do when all these people hate you? Well, the collective wisdom of a large group of people probably means you're worthy of being hated, but I never comment on those things. Um, but there is something to be said for a lot of people say this about me. Well, if a lot of people are saying in your sales presentation, not now, not this version, not this price, and the dreaded one, and not ever. I actually don't mind that one because if it's not ever, I'll never waste any more time chasing them around. But here's the thing we have that'll smooth out a lot of those. It's called drip marketing. When people, in one way or another, indicate that we're pretty much through, I just ignore it and leave them in the system. So when I send out something that goes to everybody on Facebook or LinkedIn or Constant Contact or whatever, they're still there. And I'm not usually trying to sell anything particular in those things. What it says to them is, I'm still alive. I'm still here. My name is still Ben Gay. And here's my email or phone number or whatever goes in that particular message. I just leave them on the hook. I don't dream up 50 tricky closes to go back and turn them around. That's fine with me. And then if I get something brand new that they didn't know about and I didn't know about when I met with them that could turn them around, I might call them or email them and say, I've got some fresh information for you. But in the meantime, I've stayed in front of them, if only by drip marketing. I think drip marketing is one of the most clever things. I grew up in the era of direct mail, and you couldn't afford to drip market through direct mail. It cost too much. And now it would be outrageous, but it costs too much to put an envelope in their hands every week or so. But it doesn't cost anything to do it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Constant Contact, and all the other ways we have now. So, uh, the original point of my dissertation was I don't hear those things. And here's why I don't hear those things. I set them up in advance. If you have J. Douglas Edwards taught us, and I quoted it in the book, Sales Closing Power, I wrote for his family after Doug died. If you have a built-in objection, bring it up first and brag about it. So if the product or service I'm calling on you, I'll go back to face, but whatever the vehicle is, if the product or service I'm offering has a built-in objection, I bring it up first. I don't wait for the other shoe to drop. In this day and age with Google and all the other places they have to go, they either already know or they're gonna find out. So why not bring it up first, brag about it, and march on? Or if it's a deal killer, find out it's a deal killer before you waste 2 or 3 hours and buy lunch for somebody that's not ever going to do anything. And we're always referring to the closers part too, and we tend to focus on the, the page
Sales
257.
infiltration, yeah.
Yeah, sales infiltration. But let me guide you to another chapter on page 65. For those of you who closers part 2 books available, the Goodnight Kiss Close. is mentioned there. And the reason I bring that up is it was directed supposedly to a teenage boy, ours, who wanted to know, I'm having one of my first dates. How do I get the goodnight kiss closed? I just grab her at the end,
No, these
smash
days you'll get punched.
smash my mouth into hers and so
Oh
on.
my God, no. You'll
Yeah.
get punched twice.
So in the goodnight kiss close, we discuss how to treat a lady, in this case, a boy versus a lady, how to treat her properly, how to greet her parents, how to smooth the road, how to remove all the objections they already have. The main objection they already have is you want to take my daughter out into a dark spot and have sex with her. That's the reason you're here. We all know that. Now, calm us down. Tell us that's not you. Become somebody that we know, like, trust, and feel safe with. And the goodnight kiss close. I repeat, page 65, I think I said. Let me check real quick. Yeah, page 65, closers part 2, the goodnight kiss close. That's prepping a sales presentation so that you run into less of those objections. Didn't wipe them all out, but if they, for instance, if they don't have the money, it doesn't wipe any of them out. I mean, if they just don't have the money or it's not in the budget or whatever, what you're then down to is softening them up because that's, unless they go out of business, that's not going to be the situation forever. And when it's not the situation, you want to be able to, through drip marketing, having been there all that time, and they won't remember what you sent them, whether it was a motivational quote or a little piece of industry news or whatever. They won't remember that. They'll just remember that your name and that you've stayed in touch. And so when they go looking and they might reach for their Rolodex or hit the computer and look for various names and so on, odds are they'll remember your name. And you don't leave that to chance. It's not send them something to read once a week or every 10 days. I like to do clever things like that. I rarely do something every Wednesday. I'll do something every 8 days, let's say, or 10 days. And that means when I send out something, let's say on Facebook, on my daily uh, calendar, my daily success plan that Dr. Napoleon Hill helped me develop, I send out what we'll call it just Facebook. I send out the Facebook thing, and beneath it, it says dash move up 10 days. So before I cross it out on the calendar, I go up 10 days and write it again, Facebook, move up 10 days. So I don't leave it to chance because that thing you were going to send but you didn't write down, 6 months might have passed. If you think that 10 days is good, and by the way, it is pretty accurate, and then avoid when you move it out 10 days and it lands on New Year's Day, then move it back or forward, get away from the national holiday, and then write it in again, dash, move up 10 days. And it just keeps you a little positive drumbeat in front of the person that you're trying to reach. And with a goodnight kiss close, you overcome the vast majority of objections and concerns in advance. Therefore, when people say to me, they said so and so, one of the 10 standard objections, my first reaction isn't to tell them how to answer that. My first reaction is, how come that came up? Did you already cover that? Didn't you do that in the beginning? Have you not read the Goodnight Kiss Close? Do you not understand sales infiltration? See, I'm sitting down rather quickly. People say, well, you say people buy from people they know, like, trust, and with whom they feel safe. But you've been in business over 50 years. I'm brand new. People will know, like, trust, and feel safe with you if you're good. in a few minutes. I've had it happen in a few seconds. And sometimes, and this does take a little time, but not with a referral, sometimes they've heard enough about you in advance so that they already know, like, and trust you and feel safe with you, sort of, unless you say or do something stupid.
Well,
So
they're your
you're
warm market, so treat them like they are.
right,
Treat
right.
them like they're as important as they think they are because they are important.
Absolutely. As Jesus, I believe it was, said in the Bible, meet them where they are.
Mhm.
And that's also crucial. But I'm talking to friends all the time. I may have known you for 50 years, as I have with several of my older clients. I may have known you for 10 minutes, but I'm talking to a friend and we're talking openly. And so we're about anything. As I say to them early in the presentation, here's how I work. I'll be straight with you. You be straight with me. I call it straight, straight. That means you can ask me anything you want and I'll give you an honest answer. And in return, I'd like to be able to ask you and get a positive, honest response. Fair enough? They always say yes. Once they've said yes, they've given you the key to the internal lock. They now say, bring it on. And if we got a bump here in the road, here or there, I'll tell you what it is, especially if you ask, I'll tell you what it is. And I mentioned the price thing earlier, that if they just don't have the money, um, that can be true in some cases, but usually it's because you haven't inspired them to find the money or use the money they have that they haven't admitted to. Here's something I found out years ago when I first entered direct selling. Sufficiently inspired, just about anybody can raise just about any amount of money. Cheryl Shoemate, an old friend of mine, he was sort of my Ed McMahon, Ed McMahon as in Johnny Carson's
Right.
sidekick. Cheryl was that. With Cheryl in the room, I could say outrageous things in a seminar to drive home a point, knowing Cheryl would stand up and everybody loved him with a smile on his face and say, what Mr. Gay meant was he would say, he wouldn't countermand the message, but he would soften it.
Yeah,
And
what the idiot was really trying to say to you is this.
yeah, he may
That's
be crude and offensive, but his message is pretty good.
that's
Here's
right, he's
his
not
message.
lying to you, it's just the way he delivered it, so ignore him. Listen to me. That's
But
funny.
we had a lot of those what Mr. Gay meant was moments when Cheryl's one of those people that I've called, worked for me for years, and then we stayed in close touch, and he died. Oh, I guess it's been almost a couple of years ago now. And several times a week, something will happen. I think I got to tell Cheryl about that. And they go, "Oh, Cheryl's not with us anymore." And I have a lot of friends like that, friends that I want to tell, and a lot of them, as I've gotten older, aren't with us anymore. Cheryl was one of those, but and he improved my speaking because once he stopped working for me and went into retirement, I would tone my own self down. I di I didn't I Cheryl's not gonna save you with this one, so soften it, back up a little bit. Or I would tell the story of Cheryl Shoemate. I'd say something, and I'd see, half the audience would get it, the other half was a little shocked, and I'd say, I used to have a guy that worked with me named Cheryl Shoemate, and at this point, he would leap up and say, "What Mr. Gay meant to say or really means is," and then I'd give Cheryl's talk, and I'd get the other half of the room. But be loose and friendly. Become their friend quickly, and then treat that as a sacred thing. A friendship is sacred, but with friends, you can speak the truth out loud. At the backyard barbecue, you're not measuring every little word. If you're with buddies, you're just talking openly. Gigi's always astounded when she hears the men in the group, be it a barbecue or whatever. The men tend to go one place and the women tend to go the other. Uh, she'll overhear what we're talking about and then say to me later, I can't believe how you guys talk. So and so says, how's this shirt look on me? And uh, a lady would say, well, it's really pretty, and whatever, and smooth it over. A guy says, it's never going to look good on you. You're fat.
Ouch. I have actually heard men do speak rather brutally to each other, but as
Yeah.
far as I can tell, and I've been, my brothers were that they weren't trying to be ugly. They're just honest,
Yeah, they're telling the truth, and
right? And it ain't purty.
they
As we say in the
free
South,
that
that ain't purty.
they've they've given each other permission to be
Right.
funny. If I
No,
went to one of those gatherings and none of the guys kidded me or made fun of me in any way, or I would assume I must have done something wrong at a previous gathering and they didn't like me anymore.
right,
Because
right.
if you're in, you're getting banged in the ribs on a regular basis.
Well,
You
that's
know,
why the roaster's so popular. People, men in particular, love to roast each other.
mhm.
Women, if you say, "Well, what do you think about this dress?" "Please don't ask me that." Just, "Your hair looks good." What are you gonna say? But, yeah, we're very different, but my brothers, oh my gosh, I mean, they would get rocking and rolling, and the females, and if we were having a small family reunion or just a gathering, the females would laugh so hard we'd be crying, and we would ask each other, "Would you talk to us that way?" "Oh god, no, I wanna live." "You'll poison me." "No, I'm not gonna do that."
You control the food supply.
That's right. That's right. But you're right, and I wanted to go back to we were talking about 3, a lot of no's don't stay no, and you said it several times, drip marketing. So everybody write that down, drip marketing. That means you're consistent, you're out there on Facebook, you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you are consistently and where people know you, they know your name. They may not have bought from you anything, they may never, but they know who you are. And chances are, and I've had this happen so many times, I've had, emails or, phone calls say, "Listen, you don't know me, but so and so said that you're the best at web development. Can we talk?" I'm like, "Who?" I actually had this happen one time, Ben. I said, "Who?" I had no idea, and I still don't know who it was. She said, "Well," and she said the name. I said, "I'm sorry, I don't know that person, but when you talk to her, tell her thank you." So apparently this woman had been watching me, knew some of my clients, or just watched the work I did, and she felt confident to refer me. It happens. Pay attention.
Absolutely. I have a nice lady, I won't mention her name, uh, who I don't know other than, we're friends on Facebook or wherever, or LinkedIn or something. And she's comments frequently or likes things or what have you. And what you hand out comes back. So I've done some of that for her. And she wrote me the other day, and I don't have it in front of me, but I'll paraphrase it pretty accurately. She said, I am so honored to be your friend.
Oh.
You have no idea how you've gotten me through some rough spots and made me continue to go forward and so on. It was really heart moving. Normally the type of thing you get if you spoke at her father's funeral, or something really significant. All I was doing was being polite and drip marketing.
Mhm.
And she says it changed her life. One of the comments, I always put it in Dallas, it's not terribly important where it was, but one of the things I love in seminars, somebody raises their hand and the sentence is, it's like they all go to the same school and learn it. Mr. Gay, you may not remember me, but, and I think this is going to be good because I've tried to live my life where it ought to be good. Uh, 33 years ago in Dallas, you said, you may remember me. I was in the fourth row with a yellow shirt. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember. You. And that always gets a laugh if they fall into that trap. But as you go through life, drip marketing face to face on the internet or whatever, one, you stay in people's memories. Two, if it's always positive in some way, or at least not negative. If I'm going to tell you, I think something you did was stupid, and so on, you and I will be the only one that know we had that conversation.
Yeah, don't do that in public. And the
Yeah.
internet is public. I don't understand why people can say one thing, do something different, and then go back and say, well, I didn't say that. It's the internet. You said it. I've got the video. Sit down and shut up.
In this political season, I love that when, I didn't say that. And they got 5 videos of
Yeah.
you saying exactly that. And I think, do the aides tell these people about, do they know about video? Do you know it doesn't go away? And I never said that. Oh, well, let me show you something you said in 1999. And
Yeah,
up
Twitter is
comes the
great for
video.
that. You can go there and somebody's said something remarkably stupid because we all know it's not true. And all of a sudden, the internet sleuths take over and they have a good time with it. So you will get hurt. Don't do it.
Dr. Hill, Dr. Napoleon Hill and I had an agreement when he became, it was his idea. I shouldn't say agreement. He just said, this is the way it's going to be. But he said, I will give you the absolute truth, whether you like it or not. And I recommend you have other people around you who do the same. But I will never ask an embarrassing question or criticize you in front of anybody else. You're paying me to give you the truth. When it's a hard truth, I will do that in private. And I think I've told you, he had a space at the end of my conference table, which was my desk, to my left on the end, the door out, the main door out into the typing pool and everything was to my right. And when the last person in the room, other than Dr. Hill, or I or me, were in the room and the door clicked, I would always look over uh, from my vast peripheral vision. I'm like a frog or a lizard. I don't have to turn my head to see what's going on either side of me. I would look over because if he quit writing and his head came up, I go, uh-oh, something just went wrong in that meeting, and he was waiting for us to be alone. And then he would tell me what he thought could have been done a little better, or to stop doing this or start doing this or whatever. But he was very good about it, always in private. So if you're listening and you got people that work with you, uh, not criticize them, but tell them the truth, which can be criticism cleverly masked, or it can be uh, disguised positive suggestion, but do that in private. Praise them publicly, not with false praise, because then everybody thinks you don't know what you're doing or you're a liar. But when possible, praise them in public, correct or criticize them in private. Dr. Hill was a master at it. And I've had some people, especially in the early days before I mastered the science, say, well, I thought everything was going along fine. Why are you telling me now I'm an ignorant jackass? Because other people in the room, when it first dawned on me, I should tell you you're an ignorant jackass. But so it can surprise them a little bit. We also touched briefly on the money objection. The way it was written down in our notes or my notes was not this price. But
Right.
that's
But isn't
code.
that almost always the first one that you hear? So, I really can't afford that. Or, oh, not now because I just don't have the money for it. But you explained it, I thought, beautifully, and you have before, that if you are sufficiently engaged that you need to find that money, you're going to find that money.
When Jimmy Rucker and Zig Ziglar and I went to an opportunity meeting in Atlanta, there were just 3 of us in the room, plus the guy presenting. Excuse me, and it was to join Holiday Magic as a distributor. The entry fee was $91.41 just to get your foot in the door, which today would be about $900, but it was $91.51 then, which was exactly $91.51 more than I had.
But you
And
guys didn't even have $3 to get out of the parking garage.
yeah, exactly. because we didn't notice the sign on the way
Right.
in. So to get out of the parking lot from this opportunity, we were all going to get rich, we ran the gate, looked to the right against the wall, pretended like I didn't see the guy with his outstretched hand in the little booth, and went right past him and bounced up an incline and bounced into West Peachtree Street in Atlanta. 1447 West Peachtree Street, in case the police are still looking for me. And when we landed, I lost a hubcap. And I decide not to go back and get the hubcap for fear the guy in the booth would still be chasing me. All that said, not only did we give in the 9141, I borrowed mine from Jimmy Rucker. I said, Jimmy, you're not married. I am. And we both worked for my father. We both made the same amount of money. So you put up the money and we'll be partners. So I took his paycheck. That's how we got in the business. Then at the first real larger meeting we went to, I discovered 9141 was your ticket to get into the lobby. It didn't get you in a position to make any money. To make any money was $2,500, which was exactly $2,500 more than I had. And to make the really big money was $5,000. I won't try and explain the marketing plan to you over the phone, but it went from we didn't have enough money to get out of the parking lot to 9141 that I raised to 2,500 that we raised, borrowed, etc. And then to bring in another partner who put a second mortgage on his home, and we raised the second 2,500. So we went from no $3 to get out of the parking lot to $5,000. That's in today's money, that's about $50,000 in a matter of, I don't know, 2 or 3 days, because Bill Dempsey had sufficiently inspired us. And if there's someone listening to this today and you're broke, that's a temporary situation. If you're poor, you got a problem. But if you're broke, that's a temporary situation. Mike Todd, the great movie producer, said once, I've been broke many times. I've never been poor. Broke is your bank balance. Poor is a state of mind. So if you can break through that, you can raise the money. If today you're broke and I ask you to it gave you a real good story and ask you to give me $50,000, your inclination might be, well, I can't do that. Well, let me tell you what my inclination is. I haven't done a good enough job because sufficiently inspired, you could get it.
Uh-huh.
Not only did we get it, I get it. I made thousands of other people get it by a cleverly tested, polished script, group presentation, and opportunity meetings all over the world. And we were talking to primarily broke people. Very few people, go to an opportunity meeting for multi-level marketing or network marketing, they're calling it today, and have a whole lot of money. If you had a whole lot of money, you probably wouldn't be there. Those are the hard people to get to those meetings. But we took in back then in 1965, 66, $67, we were taking in $1 million a day. Adjusted for inflation, that's $3.5 billion, spelled with a B, a year. All because we developed a presentation that would sufficiently inspire people to go do what they didn't think they could do. Now back to just you're sitting in an office trying to get somebody to do something, and he says he doesn't have the money. Ignore it. I don't mean say, oh, yes, you do. Ignore it and give the rest of your presentation. And if that doesn't work, one, you need to work on your presentation, because sufficiently inspired, just about anybody can raise just about any amount of money. But if all else fails, put them in your drip marketing program where they're going to hear from you roughly every 10 days for the rest of your life.
And that does work. I mean, so many people know your name. They know my name. They know, I mean, so many of the people that I've had on my other podcast, Your Partner in Success Radio, it may have been 10, 12, 13, 14 years ago. This thing, that podcast is now 18 and a half years old. I'm still talking about people who were on the show, God, in 2008, 2009, 2010. Why not? They were terrific guests. They had great information. Some of it's still, available now. It doesn't really get old because people are people and they're fascinating. So
Yep.
whatever it was that they were working at the time, maybe it's no longer really about that anymore, but it still gives you their name and you can go hunt for them.
Absolutely. And it doesn't, because of the internet, doesn't go away.
No, it
They're there.
doesn't.
I've had a couple recently that were really good, great testimonials, put up a good picture of me, etc. And so now, once a month, when either one of those comes around, I share it like you've never seen it before. Because
Well,
just
you
like,
haven't. You haven't. I mean, they say about Twitter, X, I cannot say X. It's Twitter. It's always going to be Twitter. It's got a lifespan of about 3.5 seconds because it's so loaded up and those
yeah,
things get kicked way down. Just keep repeating it. Keep repeating it. Not 10 times a day, but like you say, every 10 days or whatever, repeat it because it's new to somebody.
yeah. And remember, say to yourself, what I'm telling them is I'm still alive, I'm still in
Right.
business, and I still care about you. It's not like, oh, you didn't buy the vegetable chopper, but now it comes with two blades. Just tell them you're still alive, you're still in business, and you still think about them. And
Right.
then a lot of them will come around over time. I get a lot of that from, I had a call not too long ago from a gentleman who said, and I've had this before, I may have even mentioned it before with a different person. I did a radio program with a gentleman named Bruce Morris, who's a big deal in the real estate investment business. And he said towards the end of the show, I'm quoting from memory, I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but he said, well, do you have anything special for our listeners? So I, never wanting to get caught flat-footed, made something up. Yeah, if you do this and this and this, we'll do this. And he said, great. And we got some orders right off the bat. Now, 20 years, I'm guessing, ago was when that show was. And I only was on with him one time. Now that I think about that, that sort of bothers me. Um, but I was only on with him one time, and a guy phoned or emailed. I got the message. It said, are you still honoring that offer with Bruce Norris that you did on the Bruce Norris show? I didn't know what the offer was because it was spontaneous off the top of my head, and 20 years had gone by. And I said, I will honor anything that I said. Tell me what I said. And he put the package together, and I said, yeah, I'll do that. The answer was yes, no matter what he said, within reason, unless he was just lying. The answer was yes. But in this case, I was happy to have the order. But it took 20 years from the time I asked for the order to him to respond. That's the ultimate drip marketing, because probably somewhere he was getting my drip marketing things also. But something after 20 years triggered him. So get your name out there.
And
Get
stay
your,
out there. Be consistent with your marketing, with your message. Too many, you and I have talked about this, Ben. I need to interrupt because I think it's so important, but and it was really bad about 10 years ago. You come across these big names in marketing, big names. They're all gone. All of them now are gone because at some point, I guess they all panicked and they started just branching out and doing different things and nobody knew who they were anymore.
Mhm.
They changed their messaging and people like, that's not what I want to hear. So, and I could probably tell you their names because I used to buy their stuff. I had binders full of their stuff, and now every single one of them that I'm thinking of is gone because they weren't consistent. That's just my opinion. I can't prove it, but I
Yeah,
think that they were not consistent and they kept trying to find different markets instead of taking care of their current market who really loved them.
absolutely. Um, the consistency, stay in front of them, be positive, don't pressure them. Just let them be aware. You pressured them and tried to close them to start with. It didn't work. So now you're just reminding them gently, and they'll come around, whether it's 2 days, 20 days, 20 years, you stay in front of them. And it takes a while for that system to kick in, not with any one individual, kicks in with them immediately, but it takes a while for you to have enough of those people who are being drip marketed to for you to feel it. But now I have a tough time getting excited about, I'm forever getting those things. We'll triple your number of leads and we'll do this and so on. Well, when it involves me and my coaching, I don't want my leads tripled. I can barely take care of the people I have now. I'm about to announce that I've got a few openings because of a scheduling change I made. But and then when it's books, we'll triple the number you sold. They don't know who they're writing to. I've sold millions of copies of the ever-growing Closers series, The Closers. 10.5 million of part one when we quit counting over 30 years ago. So I'm tempted. I just don't get engaged in those things, but I'm tempted to say, uh, just out of curiosity, what's your number one success before I sign up for your $2,500 a month program? And the few times I've even hinted at that, it goes dark.
Yeah.
I'm
You know
after
what's
their
bad? I know LinkedIn has gotten horrible about that because, I'm a podcaster. You're a podcaster with me. Every single day, Monday through Sunday, and sometimes twice on Sunday, I get messages, in LinkedIn messages. They're going to they're going to do all this stuff for my podcast. Like, you don't even know who I am, do you? You don't know that I'm in the
yeah,
top 1.5%. I've been doing this for a long time. Go away. But and I just, you know, I block them sometimes and I don't even bother to respond. But these are people who are not doing their homework and they can't, if they're already doing that to you, promising this, that, and the other, they're lying to you.
that's right.
Ignore them. They are flat out lying to you.
If we're going to start this relationship based on the lie you told me, the
Mhm.
relationship is going to have a very short life.
Yeah, and it's already over, blocked. So but it's gotten so bad, particularly in podcasting, because these bookers are just, "Oh, I can do this and I can do that." No, you can't. Bye-bye. I don't
Yeah,
even I used to try to be polite, but you know how well that works. You laughed at me just now, I heard it. But you know how well that works, so I don't even respond. I just, delete and block.
the uh, the feedback we get and the conversations and the references and so on, I just love. I had one, I don't know, sometime this week, so that means in the last 2, 3, 4 days, uh, about who's your favorite. I guess they had heard us rattling off a list of people that I've worked with and known. Well, I'm not going to fall into that trap because almost
Well,
everyone on
just
the
tell them Denise. It's Denise Griffitts. You
yeah,
don't need to
well,
listen to us. It's Denise, obviously.
that's one that I refer to. As you know, I call you the queen of
Queen of
podcasting.
podcasting, and thank you for that.
Yeah,
Can
and
I have my crown for Christmas? I'll tell you what size I need, and I want platinum if you don't mind.
the
Yeah. Never
somebody
mind.
said, "Well, pick out a." When I refused politely to name one person for fear they had the list and they tell everybody else they weren't number one, uh, I said, "Here's what I will do for you. I'll tell you one of the most effective lines I ever heard." And he said, "Okay." And I looked down through the list quickly and I came to Hal Kraus. He's gone now, but he was with American Sales Masters. They used to do the big seminars before Peter Lowe or any of those people came along. And before Holiday Magic, we became the top dog in that field with huge seminars. But before us, he was already doing them. It's how I met J. Douglas Edwards and all these people at various American Sales Masters seminars. I said all that to say this. Hal Kraus was teaching recruiting techniques and finding out the truth about people because now we've all got so sensitive. You can't ask somebody, I do, but you're not supposed to ask people how much money have you made in the last 4 or 5 years selling, because people are going to do, quoting William Penpatrick, people are going to do what they've always done. Tell me your past, I'll tell you your future. You'll hear stories about amazing things that refute that, but that's the reason they're told in seminars. They're amazing, rare stories. Basically, if you were a loser in high school, you're still a loser. I've always said if I was going to build a brand new company, first I would obtain a mailing list of Boy Scouts who became Eagle Scouts at some time in their past, because those kids were the winners. And I don't care if they became an Eagle Scout 40, 50 years ago or 6 months ago. They're worth talking to and knowing. So anyway, Hal
And I
Krause.
feel the same way about veterans.
Yeah,
Most of them, I mean, they're just amazing.
yeah, absolutely. Hal Krause, they said, well, what do you do to get the truth out of them? One, and Hal, when this question was asked of him, didn't have all the tools we today have. I've talked to people, they said, well, I could make up a story. I said, well, you can make up a story, but then I'd know if it were not true that you're a liar. And I have a contact that's rather interesting. Uh, he says, well, a lot of my stuff is hidden. I said, let me get out your checkbook. And so I heard him rustling around. I said, here's your bank balance in the checking account ending in, and I gave him the last 4 digits. Then I gave him the bank balance, $701 and whatever cents. And he said, how did
So,
you do
grocery money
that? He
or
said,
cat food
"How-
money if you live like I do. My cats eat from Chewy's, I eat from Walmart. It ain't fair.
So anyway, that person was rather astounded what information is available if you have the right connections. I just happen to have the phone number of a good friend who can get me just about anything in the financial community. And I rarely use it because A, I don't care. But when challenged, like this guy, you don't know. And
Mhm.
when I gave him his exact bank balance, I don't know what he had written in the book, but that's what had gone through the bank as of that morning. There was just dead silence on the other end.
Well, that's frightening. I mean, I wouldn't I would have hung up and gone and sit in the corner and cried. And I'm not a crier, but I would have cried.
Anyway, Hal Krause said, they said, how do you find out the truth about somebody? He said, call their references, and near the end of the places where they've worked, just say, and I'm quoting from memory, but I got it pretty close. He said, now, we haven't finished our interview process. If we decide not to take him, would you like us to send him back to you? And there comes the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they can't actually answer that. They can't say, "Well, was he fired?" There's a lot of things you can't ask, but do you want him back? And if you hear, no, not really."
No, that's all right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Tell
you
it
keep
tell
him.
them we moved. We moved, we changed our phone number.
Oh, Lord. But,
So
and people do that, they embellish. And you and I have and I'm going to go back to something that you and I have talked a lot about, and that's script chunks. You tell the same stories a lot, word for word, because they're important. And I've gotten to where I'm doing the same thing. If somebody asks me where my podcast came from, I can tell you exactly what happened, when it happened, and what my reaction was when I heard my voice for the first time. And it was basically, and I'm going to say it on the internet, oh shit, because I didn't know what I sounded like. And to me, all I heard was, "Happy birthday, Mr. President." I sounded ridiculous. And I tell that story all the time because it's the absolute truth and I don't have to make anything up.
that's one of the benefits of good scripting. Well,
Mhm.
one, telling the truth. A good script means you figured out an effective way to present the truth, tested, etc. But the other thing goes back to the old adage, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember what you said. Jim Rohn used to tell a story about, I forget what the story was, but whatever it was emotional, had a positive end, and fit well into a self-development seminar. But he told the story of some guy who did this, and this was said, and that was said, and so on. And hand goes up in the room. He says, "Yes, sir." He said, "You don't need my endorsement. However, I was there when that happened 25 years ago. And that's exactly word for word what happened." So, and then he sat back down. Jim said, "I was waiting for the point. The point was you just got tested and you tell the truth. And you told the story exactly the way it happened." He didn't go into details like you've learned how to say it better, which is also probably true, but you told it exactly the way it happened. Well, everything Jim did was by script. You know, if you've been to one Jim Rohn seminar, you've been to all of them. They had longer and short. I can tell you, I tell people all the time, I can tell you how to sell. If you want it in 10 days, it's $25,000. If you're in a group who's also paying $25,000, if you want it in 5 days, it's this, 3 days, it's this, and so on. Or for $500, I'll tell you now in about 17 seconds. Do you want the 17-second version or the 10-day version?
Yeah,
Because
go
it's
get the
all,
closers books 1 and 2. There you go.
yeah, yeah. We had a niece, we're run out of time. I'm acutely aware of that. We had a niece who I've never met, a niece-in-law, I guess she is, but Gigi knew who she was. Say she saw something. I think it was that long thing that I've sent out several times about how wonderful I am, one of the top salespeople who ever lived, and so on, complete with a picture. I just shared it again, and she got it. I don't know how she was on our list, but she was. And she said, "I never knew that Ben was so successful at this, etc. It's never come up at family meetings." So I said to Gigi, "I want a list of the people who would have been at those meetings. We're going to have to shape them up. Never talk about me. Are you kidding?" But anyway, she, is there any way you could coach me or give me some tips? She had stumbled into insurance selling. And Gigi said, "Can we do anything for her?" I said, "Sure. We'll send her the closers part 1 and 2. And when she's read them and is prepared to be tested so I can see if she really has read them, I'll give her 30 minutes to help. And then I'll quote pricing." So we sent off the closers parts 1 and 2 with a personal note from Gigi. And it takes a while to read 2 books. I'll give her that. But it's been 2 weeks and we haven't heard anything yet. So she didn't devote her life to doing those 2 books. But that's basically it. I've written it all, you know. A lady at the seminar said when I finished one time, I heard her talking to somebody, and she said, "I didn't get anything I could actually write down." Well, she was a bad note taker. But I said, "Good news. I've written co-written, ghostwritten, 36 books. I wrote it all down. You want a list so you can get some notes?"
Right, right.
So
And,
I'm open.
people don't need to read if they I mean, as you know, I'll read anything, the back of a cereal box. I don't own cereal, but if that's the only thing that I can put in front of my face to read,
Yeah,
I'll read it.
me
But
too.
you can learn other ways. There's Audible, there's YouTube, there's listening to podcasts. There are so many ways to learn. It's out there. You just need to go you need to want it, and you need to find it, and you need to absorb it.
When cassette tapes first came out, Earl Nightingale said, "Fantastic. It turns every car in the world into a rolling library."
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
thinking that and I'm gonna tell this story, I know I've told it before, but Zig Ziglar. I mean, who doesn't love Zig Ziglar? And I was at a garage sale because that's where my car used to take me every Saturday. I was not in control. The car just knew where to go, and I let it go. And I picked up this weird I still have it's a weird looking little plastic binder type of thing. It was a box, but once you cracked it open, I think there were 4 or 6 cassette players, cassette tapes in there, and what the heck is a Zig Ziglar? I'd never heard of him, and I found a place. I can't remember if I had a cassette player because this was a long time ago. I can't remember if I could play it in my car or if I had to go home and get my little purple, boombox, which I still have in the closet. And I heard his voice, and I felt instantly in love with Zig Ziglar, and I think it cost me, it was either 5 cents or 25 cents. And I love Zig Ziglar. When I heard his voice, it's like, "Oh my god." But my first question was, "What in the heck is a Zig Ziglar?" I had no idea that was a real name.
When we first met, he made fun of my name.
I know.
And then I said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Zig Ziglar." I said, "You're making fun of Ben Gay and your name's Zig Ziglar? You got to be kidding me."
I know. But, you listen to him, you listen to Napoleon Hill, listen to, Earl Nightingale. I learned so much from all of you, and I was telling this to somebody the other day because, and you are my mentor. I mean, you always have been since the day we met, and you didn't know it until I finally informed you, but you're my mentor. And I remember telling this person, it was just this week, I said, "Listen, when Ben is talking to me, I can almost hear Napoleon Hill's voice coming down, from the ethos wherever he is right now. But when Ben is talking to me, so much of what he is saying comes from Napoleon Hill, and I feel very blessed to have both of you in my life."
Oh, bless you. I've stumbled into the right place at the right time.
You sure did.
And that's how I met all of those folks. And then through blind luck and hard work, I won the presidency of the company. So if you were anybody in the business of motivation, sales training, etc., you wanted to get on the biggest stage possible, and that was my company. So you had to meet me and talk to me, and they thought I was doing them a favor. They were doing me a favor. I'd only read about these people. And all of a sudden, they're sitting in my office asking for work, and I kept thinking, "How did this happen?" You know?
I know. You said that before, and I'm thinking, well, oh, number 1, you answered one ad. Number 2, you got there on time, probably sweating through your collar, but you got there. And number 3, you found the money. You were sufficiently motivated, as you said earlier, to make it happen. And those 3 things, honestly, that's
Yep.
how it happened.
Yeah, remove it. It's funny how life works. Remove any one of those things. Remove the fact I was broke and trying to put a wife through nursing school and saw a newspaper rack and thought, I ought to look at the want ads. Remove that little thing. Take the newspaper rack out of the story. You and I wouldn't be talking today.
No, and the closers wouldn't exist, I don't think.
Right. No, it wouldn't. Would not.
Yeah.
We're out of time. You were supposed to tell me that.
Oh, we are out of time. We're gonna probably go back a little bit to this next week because we covered 3, and I think we covered well, we've got just a little bit more talking to do. But everybody, listen, go find the Closers book, and you go to eBay at Ronzoni Books, Ronzone Books, and you get free shipping, and they are shipped the day you order. If you order them at what time, Ben? I know you have a phrase for that.
2 o'clock
2
California
o'clock.
time.
Right. 2
In by
PST.
2, gone the same day.
Right, right. So get those books. I mean, I'm constantly telling people, get the books, follow along with us, read them along with us. And we do tend to wander around a little bit because we're both kind of smart Alex. Well, I am. Ben is
We're
not.
Southerners.
Yeah, Ben is a very serious person, but I'm a smart aleck. And apparently I'm just lying to you, but get the books because they are important, particularly page 257. It's a big chapter. It's a lot to look at. Take notes, ask us questions. You need sales infiltration. We talk a lot about it. It's important. So, Ben, what do you want to say to our audience? Anything? Tell them
I
how much
want
you
to
love me. You love me best, right?
I love you more than anybody on earth unless Gigi walks in the room, in
Gigi
which
loves me
case
too.
I'll begin yelling obscenities at you.
Aw, she knows. You guys are so fun. Well, listen, everybody, thank you for being with us here. We really appreciate you. And we want your questions. We really want you. Let's go back to drip marketing. Ben is always putting stuff out on Facebook and LinkedIn in particular. Go watch him. Go listen to him. Ask him what he thinks about anything. Send it to us and we'll answer it. I say we. He will answer it on the podcast. So, and be sure to find those closers book. They belong. I have a library in this room in my office. I have thousands of books in here that have been gifted to me by my podcast guests, and I cherish every single one of them. But my favorite books, part 1 and part 2 of the closers, they're always right there at eye level. So anyway, Ben, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being with us each Wednesday and sending us your terrific questions. And this is Denise Griffitts and Bengay III, and we will see you next week. Ben, thank you.
Thank you.